Alright, so just recently I went back and played The Last of Us Part 1 Remake, and that made me want to go back and play The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. And after playing both of those games again, it made me want to sort of get a finger on the pulse with what's happening with Naughty Dog, because outside of the Intergalactic Heretic Prophet trailer that we got at the 2024 Game Awards, we've not really seen or heard of much outside of the article 2 here and there about what's happening within the studio. And I wanted to dive into it myself without any bias attached to anyone else's video or any information I've seen from anyone else. I wanted to go straight to the sources of these articles and to go to where the information comes from and to draw my own conclusions from that, and then to share that with y'all. And while I was looking around the internet for these articles or just random sources of information that relayed what's going on with the Naughty Dog, I came across a few interesting details that obviously did not been covered up to this point because it's relatively fresh information, but it's not really anything insane or drastic. I just found it interesting to me. Now, since I'm making this video, and just for full transparency, yes, I have already heard of Naughty Dog forcing their employees to work forced and mandatory overtime. And yeah, something like that obviously worries me because, again, we've not seen too much information from Naughty Dog outside of the trailer that released in late 2024. So the fact that they seem to be missing targets and are having to push targets back or having to force mandatory overtime on employees shows that they're probably off track, and there's probably going to be a delay, at least from their initial targets on when the game was going to release, which in my opinion was probably going to be in fall 2027. It might come out, summer or spring 2028 for all we know. But them not being able to hit internal targets on time and forcing their employees into mandatory overtime is not a good sign for a game that's probably at least somewhat far into development.
We now have the goal for Naughty Dog to eliminate crunch.
The only thing that fixes crunch, the only thing, is just deciding that you're not going to crunch.
When we onboard people, we tell them, we have a reputation as a studio for crunching, and it's something we don't want. And it's something we're not going to do anymore.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
Now, you might be asking yourself, what is this new revelation of information that I've come across? Well, I can tell you it's nothing so grand because it's really just job openings, which by itself is not interesting at all because every company year-round always has job openings. But I feel like the job openings I found gave a little bit of insight as to what's probably going on within Naughty Dog and what their project process is probably looking like. And as you look here on Naughty Dog's LinkedIn, it says that there's 17 job openings worldwide. And among them is, environmental concept artist. There's one in Thai for an associate QA tester. There's UI technical designer. But some of the most interesting ones I found was there's senior environmental concept artist, as well as senior character concept artist. But then you have other senior positions like the senior game designer for combat, a very, very important position, and also senior sound designer, also a very important position. I also don't know if they're bringing Gustavo back for as a composer, but I hope that they are because obviously he makes top tier scores in all the Naughty Dog games. And so yeah, these are very important senior positions that are listed. Again, these positions are relatively new. 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, some as new as 1 day ago. And I'm looking for information on this. There's all these position listings that are just very new position listings. And this led me to look further and to see if there was possibly an unannounced game that Naughty Dog was working on. And what do you know it, they actually are. At least according to reports that Naughty Dog is working on another unannounced new IP that's also led by Sean Escage. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But this is the director from the Uncharted Lost Legacy. And he also did some work on, I believe it was animation for Prototype. And if you don't know about Prototype, it's basically like Infamous meets Crackdown, sort of meets I guess kind of like Spider-Man as well in a way. Its open world feels a lot like Spider-Man, but yeah, I feel like it was a very unique game for what it was trying to do, and it also had incredible feeling combat. So if I take all this information into account, this probably means that the new unannounced IP from Naughty Dog is probably this game, and they're probably looking for a senior combat designer, senior technical artist, lighting artist. I mean, all these really new positions that have just cropped up over the last 2 weeks or so. And yeah, obviously we have no information on this, so this is all basically speculation on what the game could possibly be. Now, what I like about this specifically is the fact that it's being headed up by a different creative director than Neil Druckmann, and I feel like Sean's skill set is probably going to be a little bit different, even though he has experience with Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog has been seen as this kind of, I guess, one-trick pony sort of. They only do narrative, very story-driven, very cinematic games, which is not all their games are, but I kind of get that's the consensus with most people in the gaming community. And if Naughty Dog is doing two at the same time, new IPs, then that means that they most likely have to be different in some way, and they can't just be the exact same game. Otherwise, people are going to get even more tired of the style of games that Naughty Dog puts out. And let me make it clear that that wouldn't be a bad thing at all, because what I've seen from LinkedIn is that Naughty Dog is listed at over 1,000 employees. And just to put that into perspective, I looked up Bethesda Game Studios' main location, which is in Rockville, Maryland, and they have just over 700 employees. And I also looked up Larian's LinkedIn profile, and they have 567 employees worldwide. So Naughty Dog is about double the size of Larian, who made one of the most critically acclaimed RPGs in the last decade. Like the Intergalactic Heretic Prophet being sort of in space, it can be very sci-fi, or it can be more like just a space opera, a drama. And it can just be two of those different, sort of themes of space. As for the other unannounced IP, it can be basically anything. It can be in any setting. It can be of any genre. It can be literally anything. We just don't know. And my hope is that at least one of these two new IPs are just completely open world. I know people are sick of open world games, but I feel like if Naughty Dog does their take on open world with the quality of just basically everything they do, I feel like it'll be an incredible open world experience. I also have another hope that there's more of a choose your own adventure style of gameplay in either one of the two new Naughty Dog IPs, because with Neil Druckmann, he said that he was inspired by Elden Ring's open world design, which obviously is very much a choose your own adventure style of open world. So whatever creative direction both of these creative leads are going in, I hope that there's some level of, I guess, player agency or just choose your own adventure that's in either one of these games, because it doesn't have to be anything like RPG like. It can be just you choose to accept these quests, you choose to reject these quests, or something along those lines, but a little bit more broader than what their very tight and very focused narrative games are usually like. Also, and just specifically for the new unannounced IP, I hope it has a different art style just to sort of shake things up, right? Because there's nothing wrong with Naughty Dog's art style, and there's nothing wrong with their fidelity and their level of detail in their games. It's obviously top notch and top of the industry, but I just hope that there's something a little bit different from the departure of their really grounded, realistic art style. Something a little more, just something different. And obviously they have, I think I follow him on Twitter, Raf Grassetti. He is the art director at Naughty Dog, and he's currently working on, Intergalactic, and he is the former art director at Santa Monica Studios. So that tells me already they're going to have an incredible art direction with Intergalactic, and they're going to have a stacked art crew over there. But I hope that it's still at least a little bit different for their new IP. It just sort of shakes things up, maybe with a different, again, like a different theme, a different setting, an entirely different genre even. That can really help shake things up. But yeah, that's really all I had to go over. I just wanted to look into, like possibly what's going on behind the scenes at Naughty Dog. I looked at, articles. I looked at recent hirings. I looked at recent job openings, just to sort of get a finger on the pulse on, what's happening over there at Naughty Dog. Because again, we don't have much official information from them, but we can sort of infer about what they're doing and how their development is going with these articles. They say they're crunching a lot. That's obviously not good coming off of The Last of Us Part 2, where people felt a lot of burnout from that. But hopefully they can get back on track with all that stuff. Hopefully they can start reaching their targets again, and hopefully the game won't be delayed too far out so that we can finally play another Naughty Dog game, because it's feel like it's been, by the time it releases, it's probably going to be a good 7 to 8 years before we get our hands on another Naughty Dog game, which is kind of insane. That just that's modern game development, right? You wait, you get a game, and all right, we'll see you again in like 10 years. So, but yeah, anyways, that's all we had to go over in this video. Let me know if you guys are excited in any way. I know we have not seen much from Intergalactic Heretic Prophet, but the trailer was all right. It didn't do much for me, but again, it's Naughty Dog. I'm excited to see whatever they release, and I am definitely excited for probably like the reveal trailer of their unannounced IP. And yeah, this is the hardest part about being a gamer, is sometimes you play really good games, you play it for like 6 months to a year, but now you gotta wait. Here's the waiting game, right? This is the worst part. But when you get a game from Naughty Dog, it's probably gonna be a banger. So the wait is probably gonna be worth it. But yeah, that's all we got to talk about, and that's it for me. I'll see you next time.